What's going on, everybody? How's it going? Welcome into the Sactown Sports Kings recap, coming to you live from Golden One Center after the Sacramento Kings take down the Memphis Grizzlies. It took overtime, but the Sacramento Kings take down the Memphis Grizzlies by a score of 121 to 111, which, of course, the scoreboard is doing the Kings a ton of favors because this one was close. This one obviously goes into overtime, and it really, you know, if you're looking at this game on paper, the Kings had no business letting a team like the Grizzlies in it like they were. But as we've seen a lot of times this year, if you've been watching, if you've been paying attention, you really aren't that surprised because this is honestly what this team has done all season long. They cannot just take care of bad teams. We've seen them handle the Bucks. We've seen them handle the Lakers. We've seen them beat some of the best teams in the NBA. But for whatever reason, when it comes down to playing inferior opponents, teams that are not in the playoff race, are not in the play-in hunt, the Kings, for whatever reason, cannot easily take care of those opponents, give themselves pretty much a night off. Instead, they go into overtime and need Malik Monk to go absolutely insane in the fourth quarter and overtime for them to pull this one out. There was a lot of opportunities for the Kings to squander this one. I'm not taking this one for granted. I've said it a million times. Beggars cannot be choosers at this point in the season. A win is a win, and the fact that the Kings get it tonight is what's important. They do have a nice little run of easier opponents here, so maybe in a weird way, you know, you get this. This is the last home game that they're going to play for about a week or so. You know, those things can kind of be viewed as schedule losses. So, again, the fact that the Kings just get the result at the end of the day is what's important. It definitely did not look pretty. There was ebbs and flows of the shot falling and the shot not falling. But most importantly, I think the biggest thing for this Kings team was on the defensive end. And I know it wasn't the prettiest thing. I thought they were really active getting their hands into the cookie jar, if you will. When Memphis was driving, a lot of the time you saw Keon Ellis reach in there. Keegan Murray got himself a couple steals. I think De'Aaron Fox got himself a couple steals as well. I think the defensive end has definitely been the story these past couple games. I took note of it. The last 5 games, the Kings have allowed opponents 104.4 points per game, which is incredible. I cannot believe that they've found their defense at this point in the year. I don't know if it's just a coincidence that Keon Ellis has been inserted into the rotation consistently these past couple games, and you see the defense get an uptick. But it was good to see just this team continue to lock in on the defensive end. The three-pointers, Memphis comes into this game being the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if it was just because it was cold outside or what, but the Memphis Grizzlies stayed the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA. I know all season we've seen, didn't matter if it was the Spurs, if it was the Grizzlies, if it were you and I out there, somebody was going to shoot 40% opposite of the Kings. That really hasn't been the case these past couple games. I think they had one game recently where they allowed their opponent to shoot over 40%, but for the most part, it has been quiet from beyond the three-point line, and that's been big because the Kings really haven't shot well these past 2 games at all after shooting the lights out against Milwaukee and the Lakers. The important thing is absolutely, I see a couple people putting it in here, 4-2 on this homestand. It wasn't pretty. Some parts looked great. Of course, again, yeah, that Milwaukee and Laker game, that's probably going to be the best 2-game stint of the season. That was a great 24, 48 hours. But, you know, these last 2 games haven't been the prettiest thing. Definitely that Knicks game, not great. You know, I've heard some people say that they prefer that style of basketball. I don't. I thought tonight was another ugly one. It looked a lot like that Knicks game the other day. But the difference was, to me, the Kings down the stretch were just lethal. Malik Monk and De'Aaron really just took this game by the reins, and they were the best players. And I thought that's absolutely what you need. I mean, when Memphis is down bad as much as they are, you know, Gigi Jackson played 43 minutes today. They only played 8 players. LaRavia played 40 minutes. They almost had, yeah, they had 4 guys play over 37 minutes tonight. And they just didn't have a deep bench. And when you have something like that, this is a game where I've called on De'Aaron Fox to be the best player. Like, he's the best player on the floor, and he needs to look like it a lot of the time. And even tonight, I think there was because Malik was so great, he kind of had it rolling. It was his night. But these games really shouldn't be close. It's fine. At the end of the day, I'm not going to make a big stink out of it, but at some point this season, there's only 15 games left after tonight. You would just like these things to start to look easy. But yeah, 4-2 homestand. 4-2 homestand. You will absolutely take it. And they have a nice little 3-game road trip here at Toronto, at Washington, and then at Orlando before coming home to play the Sixers. These are some easier games. We talked about it after the last stream, but these are some easier opponents you have coming up here, and it's pretty crucial that the Kings take advantage because after they come home, they play. I mentioned they play Philly, and then they play Utah. Oh no, I'm sorry. I think it's Philly, and then the Mavericks back to back, and then Utah, and then you have like Clippers, OKC, Boston. It's just a bloodbath after that. So these Kings need as many games like this as possible in terms of just getting the result, and you'll just kind of take it. I mean, tonight, the Grizzlies, this is what they've done. This is what they kind of do all season long. They've been injured all season long. I think tonight was their 42nd different starting lineup in 66 games. So they've been going through it all year long. If anything, they're feeling good because Desmond Bane just came back last game from a long injury. So they're kind of feeling like they're in an upward swing, and the Kings definitely kind of caught them in the middle of it. It was scary, and I thought that Memphis did have a couple of opportunities to steal this one tonight, but they just weren't really good enough. And Jaren Jackson, 8 of 27 today, he just looked kind of disinterested, disengaged. I think if Jaren Jackson played a little bit better, Memphis wins this one pretty easily, but really only let his presence be known on the defensive end, which is what he does. He had a couple blocks on Sabonis there towards the end of the game, but really thought Memphis needed a better Jaren Jackson today, and Desmond Bane was good, but I think he's still kind of working through his injury. He finished with 24 tonight. Of course, the big story from tonight is Kevin Huerter going down. I think it was the 2nd minute of the game. Huerter, the replays are just gross. It's tough. It's really unfortunate. I know there was a larger conversation going on about, Kevin Huerter versus Keon Ellis. But man, like, this is just not like this. Not like this. The Kings still need Kevin Huerter. I know a lot of people in this fan base have been coming down Kevin's road pretty intensely here this season, and I won't even say you're not justified. I mean, he has been really bad this year. It's been a lot more downs than ups, and I kind of think his season's over. The injury, I don't know. I don't want to speculate as to what it was. It was clearly a dislocation, a fracture, whatever it was. He did not have control of his other arm. And that's obviously not good with under a month to go in the season. You hate to see it. You don't want to see it. It was really nasty. I mean, just to try and paint, I'll try and paint the least graphic visual I can. But essentially, what happened was Kevin Huerter's kind of got a bit of a fast break. He's got Desmond Bane trailing him or just in front of him, and as Huerter's kind of going for the layup, as tends to happen on just about every play, and I think that's what makes it so tough to watch. Was he was just kind of going to flail. Bye, Morgan. he was just going to flail. Like, he was just going to try and sell the call, and his arms were going to go up in the air. And what you see is Kevin with the ball hand go up, but Desmond Bain just, he slaps down, and Kevin just kind of couldn't get this. And I even hate seeing myself do it because I can just see what happened to Kevin. But essentially, Desmond Bain slaps Kevin's wrist. Kevin's hand continues to try and go up as Bain is pushing down, and it just kind of, I don't know if it's his shoulder. The team is calling it a shoulder injury. It looked like it might have snapped at his elbow. You look at him on the floor before they put the towel over it. It looks like his wrist is dislocated. I really don't know what the official diagnosis is, but I can tell you that it did not look good. And it wasn't his shooting hand, but I just have a tough time seeing Kevin Huerter return with 15 games left in the season. I think that thing's probably going to require surgery. He's probably going to need a cast on it for some time. And, it's probably, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it feels like Kevin Huerter's season might be over. And it's just really disappointing because I do think I just would have liked an answer to, was there a redemption arc this season for Kevin Huerter? It felt like, this was a season from hell. He shot so terribly all year. I just talked about it. I mean, this is one of the worst three-point shooting seasons of his career. And even then, I was talking to Deuce Mason about this before the game, and I said that same exact thing. And Deuce was like, what's crazy is still shooting 38%. He's shooting 36%, actually, Deuce. But which is not, like, that's just not who Kevin Huerter is. He's in Atlanta his first couple seasons. He shot 38%. He did shoot 36% one season in Atlanta, but then was right back to 38. And then last season was up at 40. For him to fall back down to 36 this year, I was just hoping, man. I was hoping that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that maybe, in a playoff series, Kevin would have a couple games where it erases everything. And I just think it's really just... it just sucks that he's not going to get that opportunity, because I do think that fans have a really bad taste in their mouth right now for the player that Kevin is, and I just don't think this season has been a good representation of the player that Kevin Huerter is. I think that this is about the worst it's going to look if he's not hitting shots. I mean, he's so in his head right now. In a weird way, it's good that he's going to take some time to step away, because I do think it was clearly more than anything physical. I do think he was in his head too much about this shooting. I hope he just takes this time to kind of step away from the game, relax, recenter himself. There's that word again from me. But I just really hope that Kevin Huerter gets an opportunity to do right by Kings fans, because last year there was very minimal of Kevin Huerter hate. He was one of the key contributors. He had a career year last year. And, he did have a bad playoffs. He had a really bad playoffs, and that was kind of the start of this entire journey that we've been on here this past year. This, like I said earlier, this season hasn't been good. I understand why people have kind of came down his way, but man, I really felt like there was a light at the end of the tunnel for Kevin. There was a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for this season. I truly do believe it. And unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to get that opportunity. So, hats off to Kevin Huerter. I hope, I'm going to keep it real. I had a friend instantly almost text me or text the group that I was in, is that Kevin Huerter's last game as a King? I don't want to talk about that. It definitely might be true. But if it is, man, Kevin Huerter was a great King, and let's not even go there yet. But I just hope that Kevin Huerter, like I said, gets another opportunity to kind of redeem himself or do right by Kings fans, if you will, because it does feel like a lot of people just weren't happy with how he played this year. And that moves us on. There's no easy way of transitioning, but the easiest way I think I can off of that is talking about how Keon Ellis is more than likely going to be inserted into the starting lineup moving forward. Keon played 33 minutes today. He played 30 minutes the other night. He got 4 steals today. What did he end up with? 3 steals. Is that right? 3 steals? They gave him credit for 1 steal. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that's not true. That's just not true. Keon, I saw with my own eyes have like 3 steals. Wow, they only gave Keon 1 steal. Okay. They apparently in the stat book they only gave Keon Ellis 1 steal tonight. I thought he had 3 to 4, but I'm seeing in the stat sheet that they only gave Keon 1. I I don't know how that happens, but Keon was great tonight, and Keon's gonna, it's gonna look weird to say he played great but had 5 points, but we've talked about it before. With Kevin Huerter specifically. If you're not hitting shots, which Keon just doesn't really take it at a high volume, 33 minutes, and only took 4 shots. He's getting rebounds. He's getting steals. He had 3 assists tonight. He did have 3 turnovers, which he's got to work on. Oh, they gave him 5 blocks. That's why. Okay, that's why. So I guess there's going to be some manipulation of stats here. Keon Ellis had 1 steal, but 5 blocks. So there you have it. That makes a lot more sense. So there you go. 6 stocks, if you will. And that's the guy Keon Ellis is. That's not something that anybody on this team is capable of right now, Keegan Murray included. I don't think anyone could put those kind of defensive numbers up in a game and just impact winning. He was a plus 13, which was a team high today. We like to look at that number when it comes to Keon. They're a really good team with him out there, and it's going to be interesting to see these next 15 games. Just how he gets integrated. Does Chris Duarte start to see some consistent time? We saw him hit a couple threes when he checked in. He finished with 8 points today. I kind of like it. I do think, if Kevin Huerter is going to miss the rest of this season, I do like the options that they have. I think that Keon and Duarte are both 2 guys who provide offensive shooting, spacing, but defensively is where they're going to make their marks. And I think that's more of the team that Mike Brown wants to be. And so I'm not going to say it's a blessing at all, a blessing in disguise, absolutely not. But the facts of the matter are, with Kevin Huerter out, it does bring more defensive-minded players into the game. And, at the same time, it does put more pressure on guys like Keegan and HB to hit their shots, because without Kevin being able to be there to maybe provide a 3 or 4 3-pointer game. Not that we've seen a lot of them this season, but it means that the Kings really need HB and especially really need their guy Keegan Murray to be a lot more consistent from the perimeter. Those guys, Keegan was 2 of 8 tonight, another really bad shooting performance from him. HB was 1 of 4 from 3, had some open looks, didn't convert on all of them. Those guys have to be better from the perimeter with Kevin Huerter out. So that's going to be definitely interesting to follow. Didn't matter a ton tonight, but I think against some of these better opponents or against teams where, I think the other day against the Knicks, when teams are playing really good defense, it's going to be crucial for Keegan and HB to knock down just the open ones. It's a completely different conversation if they're being asked to create their own shots, but they're getting wide open spot ups, and they have to be hitting those near at 40%. You have to hit open shots at 40% in this league, especially if you're going to be classified as a shooter. So those guys have to be better from the field if this Kings team is going to survive without Kevin Huerter. And I don't think it's over, man. I do think that, again, there are some positives in what Keon and what Duarte bring. But at the end of the day, this is an offensive team, and they go as far as their offense takes them. They have a ridiculous record. I was just looking at when they, and it kind of makes sense, but when they shoot a better percentage than their opponents, I think they only have 3 losses this year. I think they're like 34-3. So I mean, they need to be hitting shots, and just here recently, we really haven't seen them do that. I think tonight, and yeah, I mean, we'll move on to 3 stars of the night here. I'm going to give first star. I'm I'm gonna go De'Aaron. Not like the loudest De'Aaron Fox game. He finishes with 23, and honestly, the thing that I mainly want to talk about, the thing that I mainly remember from De'Aaron's game today is that strip that he had on Jaren Jackson at the end of the game. He did actually have 2 really clutch steals. De'Aaron finished off with 3 steals. He had 2 really clutch steals. But the thing I'm going to remember is those 3 threes that he hit, I believe, in that third quarter in a row. Fox from 3. He finishes 4 of 7. Again, 23 points, 9 of those coming in that little burst. It wasn't great, but it was good enough. And, you know, he had 10 assists. He's been moving the ball terrifically here recently. These past, I want to say like 4 or 5 games, he is really, really locked in terms of playmaking. And, you know, I think it's a welcome sight because Sabonis has kind of been his dribble handoff game has kind of been taken away a bit. And De'Aaron has definitely improved when it comes to distributing. He's had 9 assists in back-to-back games. Actually, he had 9 assists the other day, finishes with 10 today. Has had 7 or more assists in his last 4 games now. So he's definitely had an increased emphasis on moving the ball. And, you know, I think overall I would like to see De'Aaron be a little bit more aggressive. But, again, it's so important for all of his guys to get involved. You know, you just love to see De'Aaron sharing it a bit and it resulting in a win. I mean, it would be really bad if, you know, you have these games where De'Aaron's trying to move the ball around and they can't get it done because they don't have enough. You'd ideally like De'Aaron to be able to be a threat like that, to have his own sense of gravity, really. And, you know, he's been a lot better at it recently. So that's 1 star going to De'Aaron. 2 stars. It feels crazy to give a guy who had 25 and 18 2 stars, but that's where we're at with Domantas Sabonis these days. 25 points, 18 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds. He went to the line 15 times, took 15 free throws tonight, finished 13 of 15 from the free throw line, which is pretty damn good considering Sabonis' averages. That's got to be the most free throws that he's taken all season long. That was a really, really good game. Honestly, if I knew he had 15 free throws, I might even consider giving him 3 stars. He wasn't super dominant against Jaren Jackson, but at the same time, defensively, he did not let Jaren Jackson get going. I mentioned Jaren Jackson was 8 of 27 from the field. A lot of that was with Sabonis in the post, and Jaren Jackson can definitely spread the floor, but he cannot bang with Sabonis, and he just doesn't have the necessary big man skills to really play with a guy like Sabonis. And by the way, I always love to mention this stat every time we play Jaren Jackson, who I say is the worst big man in the NBA. Not necessarily in terms of caliber of player, but just in terms of being a big man and what you would want your big men to do. He literally does none of it. 2 rebounds today. He does get a ton of blocks. Obviously, you do want that from your big man. But to me, the big issue is 2 blocks from Jaren Jackson, and just the amount of threes in general that he takes is usually pretty crazy. He was 1 of 6 today, but I like Jaren Jackson as a 4, but as a center, I don't think that it works at all. So shout out Sabonis for holding Jaren Jackson again, 8 of 27 and 2 rebounds, while Sabonis got 18. And, you know, of course, for anybody who listens to Styles and Watkins, our prop talk segment, I had Sabonis and Jaren Jackson combined 20 rebounds, and Jaren Jackson had 2, as Sabonis had 18. So I can only push on that wager. So not great out of Jaren. Of course, 3 stars today going to Malik Monk, who just completely took over. He had 18 points in overtime and in the fourth quarter. He was 7 of 9. I tweeted out about his clutch stats. He's been great, honestly. Like, De'Aaron Fox, of course, clutch player of the year last year, much deserved, but percentage-wise, you look at what Malik Monk has done in the clutch, he's been just as good as De'Aaron this year, and some of his percentages are some of the best in the NBA. He's shooting 48% in clutch situations, shooting 37% from three in clutch situations, and again tonight just putting up a ton of points in the fourth quarter and in overtime. I think I would give Malik Monk the stamp of most clutch king this season, and honestly the guy that, just because De'Aaron's been a little bit just not himself, it seems, recently. I actually do trust Malik a lot with the ball in his hands at the end of these games. I don't know if I'll say more than De'Aaron, but he's been more efficient. He's able to hit the three at a better clip. He's a much better free throw shooter than De'Aaron is, and he's had a ton of assists so far this season. So I'm not saying he's better than De'Aaron, but I will say he's just as good of an option, which is absolutely incredible to have in the clutch. It's something that really this Kings team has desperately needed. Is another guy who can get a bucket in big time scenarios, and if they can just get one more, man, I think that these guys could really be cooking with gas. Brendan just texted me right here. The Kings, for those who are keeping track of the spray threes, which Mike Brown has been talking about a lot here recently, Mike said that the Kings were either 5 of 18 or 5 of 19 tonight on spray threes, which is, again, kind of what I was talking about earlier. Those spray threes are exactly what the Kings want. It's a driving kick. They want to attract all the attention into the paint and then just kick it out to the perimeter. The fact that they were 5 of 18 or 5 of 19, that tells me that the Kings were just missing open looks again today. And, in a weird way, like, that's okay, because you're probably going to make more than you miss. And if you can win on a day where you're not hitting open looks, you just kind of thank the stars and keep it pushing. But how many more times do these guys have to miss a ton of open looks before it starts to get a bit concerning? And you have to question, hey, we're supposed to have a lot of knockdown shooters on this team, but if you can't knock down open ones, like, are you really a knockdown shooter? And if you're going to be this inconsistent all year long, are you really a shooter? I think those are some interesting questions when it comes to this team, which hopefully we will have more answers to at some point. We'll see. They hit this nice little 3-game road trip here, playing the Toronto Raptors in Toronto. When is that? Is that on Wednesday? We got some early games here, people, so definitely be ready. Oh, actually, Nicktown, yes. Thank you, Nicktown, for throwing this in here. This is really important. I am going to finish this point, but then I'm going to get right onto that, and then we'll head out of here. We're going to have some early games here, so be expecting these live streams to come around 7 o'clock, around 7:30. The Raptors game on Wednesday is at 4:30. I would suspect that game's probably going to end around 6:45, 7-ish. I'll probably be on around that time. Wizards is the day after that. That's a 4 o'clock start. And then Saturday as well against the Orlando Magic. Definitely going to have fun with that one. That one is also at 4 o'clock. So definitely be sure to adjust your schedules, as I am also talking to myself there. And yes, Nick, this is this is another theme of the season. Sacramento Kings been the worst free throw shooting team in the NBA. The one bright spot, the single bright spot that the Kings have had recently. Shout out Kings Reddit, which is always great. Sometimes when I'm in a pinch, head on over to Kings Reddit. It's always got some sort of content ready to pull, and they're great. There's tons of great moderators. I don't even know moderators and commentators, and I don't know the Reddit slang, but Kings Reddit is great. And on Kings Reddit, I saw the stat that Keegan Murray had hit 32 consecutive free throws in a row, dating all the way back to, I believe, late January. He had hit 32 consecutive free throws. He missed one today and then stepped up to the line in the fourth quarter, 2 free throws, after getting a very, very – it was a bad foul on, I think, Santi Aldama. It was on Gigi Jackson on a closeout on a free throw. Just pulled Keegan to the ground, tried to make it look like Keegan pulled him to the ground, sends Keegan to the line with an opportunity, I think, to go up 2 with under a minute to go. And what happens? Keegan Murray misses both. he misses both free throws, which brings us back to square one when it comes to the free throw thing. So I don't know, man. I don't know where we're at, but all I do know is if there are free throws and the laser beams are pointed and, the king needs to hit a free throw, we're all screwed. Y'all have a fantastic night. Again, I will be joining you Wednesday after the Toronto Raptors game. That tips off at 4:30. Be expecting the live stream to go live at around 7:15. Y'all have a fantastic night. I'm going to go check out that beam. And y'all, I already said have a fantastic night, so do it twice.